This is Matthew Kratter from Bitcoin University, and today I wanted to talk a little bit more about the carnage that's going on in crypto land and how Bitcoin is riding it quite well. Coinbase and Cardano Rekt we talked about yesterday. The day before we talked about the SEC suing Binance, and in that video I said please don't tell me that you're still holding any of your Bitcoin at Binance. If you are, withdraw it immediately to a hardware wallet like the Blockstream Jade or the cold card. We saw late yesterday the SEC filing an emergency order to freeze all assets on Binance US. If you haven't taken your fiat off of Binance or your Bitcoin off of Binance, it may now be too late. It looks like Bitcoin itself is commanding a premium. It's trading above where it's trading elsewhere on Binance as a way of people moving out of BNB token and fiat and trying to find the hardest, soundest, safest money within the Binance ecosystem. But this may still not be enough. You better really hope that CZ has not pulled an SBF, a Sam Bankman-Fried, on everyone, and that he actually has enough fiat and Bitcoin to pay everyone back. As we've said many, many times over the past couple of years, not your keys, not your coins. Still try to get your cash off of Binance, withdraw your Bitcoin and put it on a hardware wallet like the Blockstream Jade or the cold card, if Binance US is still allowing withdrawals when you hear this. Next, I wanted to talk about the implications for Ethereum of these lawsuits. As we've been talking about on this channel for a long time, Ethereum is indeed a security. As Sam Callahan points out here in the SEC complaint filed against Coinbase yesterday, there is some language that suggests that the SEC is clearly designating ETH as a security. Again, this is something the question will be for the SEC and for any judge in this matter if and when Ethereum is sued, whether Ethereum fails or passes the Howey test. But we can see a glimpse of this in the complaint on item number 309. Coinbase has violated and continues to violate various sections of the Securities Act, engaging in the unregistered offer and sale of securities in connection with its staking program. Refers to this as an investment in these securities, and then when it lists all of the proof of stake assets, it lists Ethereum. As we know, if you just read the Howey test yourself, you'll see that Ethereum is clearly a security that was issued by a centralized group of people. It looks like Jack Dorsey agrees with this as well, and he went out on a limb to say it. Someone asked him, is ETH a security, Jack? And he said, yes. I would expect SEC lawsuits against Cardano, against ETH, against Solana, against all of these ship coins in the coming months, certainly before the end of the year. And it's my belief that both will eventually be banned from trading in the US, and it will thus be driven away from the deepest capital markets in the world. So it looks like this is quite a disaster in crypto land. Meanwhile, we had some interesting words from Gensler on CNBC, basically saying we don't need any more currencies. This was the quote: look, we don't need more digital currency. We already have digital currency. It's called the US dollar, it's called the euro, or it's called the yen. They're all digital right now, sort of playing around with words here, and obviously not recognizing that something on a blockchain like a CBDC or something is different. I would say to Gary, that's fine, Gary, you do you, but that US dollar of yours, that euro, that yen, are not exactly the most attractive assets. We can see that they're terrible, terrible stores of value, and they can be frozen, which is, of course, probably what government officials like, and they want to maintain this power. If the US ever rolls out a CBDC, as is contemplated on the Fed's website, this would become even more of a problem. It would be much easier to monitor people's spending and also to freeze their money, because everything would be riding on a blockchain run by the Federal Reserve. Just to reiterate what I've always said about the SEC taking down ship coins, taking down altcoins, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. In this way, referring to Gensler as the enemy of crypto, and thus he's my friend as long as he's doing that. Bitcoiners know that it's impossible for Gensler to do to Bitcoin what he's doing to crypto casinos and unregistered securities that are masquerading as crypto. I saw in the comments yesterday a few comments like this, but free markets, shouldn't we hope for a free market in which all these currencies can compete? And my answer to that is always yes. But part of that free market includes state-sponsored attacks on an asset. That's part of the free market competition between different forms of money. And so you might want to pick a money like BTC that can actually survive such an attack, not something like Hex or Cardano or Ethereum or other garbage like that. I did get some pushback from some Cardano folks Here's it's simp 7813. Bitcoin maxis and the influencers who make a living from it are the best people in the world to get unbiased news about blockchain technology. Obviously being ironic there, there's no such thing as quote unquote blockchain technology. That's just marketing garbage. Blockchains are actually a really bad way of doing most things, and centralized databases are almost always better and faster, etc. Blockchain only becomes interesting when combined with decentralized proof of work. This was Satoshi's real innovation. And I should also mention, by the way, Bitcoin educators are not getting rich doing Bitcoin education. The real money is actually in promoting crypto scams, as we see here. Also, Jeff Peterson, 4287, asking what would happen if the US government, sensing the threat Bitcoin poses to their monetary easing, declares BTC an unregistered security and essentially makes it illegal for anyone to hold or trade. Would the Supreme Court strike it down? Now, Bitcoin, as we've said, is clearly and objectively a digital commodity. When you look at it in the context of US securities and commodity law, it's an asset without an issuer. But if things get really bad and if the ship starts to hit the fan, the US government doesn't need to designate Bitcoin as an unregistered security to ban it. They can just ban it, citing US monetary security concerns or saying that Bitcoiners are destroying the economy, something like this. And the Supreme Court will probably go along with that ban, just like they did when President Roosevelt confiscated Americans' gold in 1933 with Executive Order 6102. There are not a lot of good precedents for this, and when the state feels threatened, it will act like an animal who's been backed into the corner and will lash out and do whatever it needs to do to protect itself. I'm not naive about these things. What I'm trying to do, though, is I'm trying to create enough new Bitcoiners in the US, just doing my small part on this channel, such that such a ban against Bitcoin becomes politically infeasible. This is something that Corey Clipston has written a lot about, the race to avoid the war. Win this race once and for all so that we may never have to fight the war against the US government. If we get enough Bitcoiners in the US, if, for example, there are 50 million serious Bitcoiners in the US, then it becomes very, very difficult for the government to even contemplate a Bitcoin ban. And this is what I talk about in this video, which I'll link to in the description notes below, flipping the US for Bitcoin, danger ahead. This was a great tweet from Drew. I thought, you know who isn't getting sued by the SEC? Swan Bitcoin, River Financial, Strike, and Unchained Capital, all of which are companies that I'm not being compensated by in any way, but I have talked about and recommended on this channel as an alternative to the large crypto casinos, which, as we are seeing, are in the process of being shut down. And we can see that BNB, there was a lot of talk about its outperformance versus Bitcoin. These things are always very short-lived, and we can see Bitcoin, we can see BNB here. When the chart goes down, that means BNB is losing purchasing power relative to BTC, and we can expect this crash to continue because all assets like this, all crypto assets, especially centralized junk like BNB, they always mean revert and go to zero in Bitcoin terms, just like everything else is going to zero in Bitcoin terms. Gold is going to zero in Bitcoin terms. Real estate is going to zero in Bitcoin terms. The S&P 500 is going to zero in Bitcoin terms. And this is because Bitcoin is the apex predator of all assets, and it is eating the world and will continue to eat the world. And that's something that the SEC cannot stop. It's something that Gensler cannot stop. And ultimately, it's something that not even the US government can stop. But it would be nice if we have a peaceful transition to a Bitcoin standard rather than a violent clash with the US government. If you found this video helpful, be sure to hit that subscribe and like button. Hit the notification bell if you want to be notified when I publish my next video. And let me know your questions and comments in the comment section below. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.